All right, Catherine, I'm going to start the video and then you'll be set to go.
Okay, good.
United Way of Santa Fe County has a new name.
Hello, I'm Catherine Freeman, President and CEO of Growing Up New Mexico, and it's a very exciting day for us to launch our new name, Growing Up New Mexico. And all of those beautiful children that you just saw have been in our programs all across many, many, many years. So cheers to them for that lovely, lovely video. The purpose of tonight's event really is to toast and celebrate all the progress that we've made in early childhood in the state of New Mexico over the years. We've really learned that all of our partners at the table all across the state are incredibly important. So we're very proud to be able to have a new name today that better reflects who we are and who we want to be as an organization, and how we want to interact and how we are interacting with parents and legislators and lovely funding people and all the many, many, many people who have contributed to early childhood over the years. So that's really the purpose of tonight, to toast our past, our present, and our future. And we're really fortunate to have some of you in the room who've been involved in this for many years, and we appreciate that and appreciate your involvement. I was imagining today if we could get all of the people who've had a role in early childhood over the years, we would need to rent a stadium. So maybe we'll do that one of these days. But for today, thank you to those of you who are here. I think we all know and agree that we all believe that every child is born ready to learn, and that this event and every event that we do and that everybody else does is a call to action in a way to keep our investments in early childhood rolling and our great work in early childhood rolling away. So that's why we're here tonight. Before we get started, I want to introduce two people who've been leaders for us, and especially for me in my life and in all we're doing in early childhood for a long time. The first of those is Lieutenant Governor Diane Dennis, and I'm going to turn it over to Diane in a minute, but I'm going to use my opportunity to talk here for a little bit. Everybody knows that Diane was the leader, the strong leader, the courageous leader that brought early childhood to the forefront from a policy perspective in our state. She is a diva of early childhood, in my opinion, and has been a close advisor and friend all of these years. And as you all know and see, she's still doing her thing for us in early childhood. The other person I want to introduce, can you sort of spotlight them in case folks don't know them? I know everybody knows Diane, but can you spotlight Stacy here for a minute? Just a second. The other person I really want to recognize who has led our organization and again been the closest of colleagues for me and is still involved is Stacy Quinn. Stacy Quinn is a member of our board. She's an emeritus member of our board and has been involved, has been board chair twice in all of the work and all of the transition and all of the growth leading to this glorious day when we're growing up New Mexico. So Stacy Quinn will be having a part here tonight. And I also am going to take this moment to recognize that we have an anonymous gift of $300,000 in honor of Diane and Lieutenant Governor Dennis, in honor of Diane and Stacy. And we're so happy and so proud to kick off Growing Up New Mexico in honor of these two women who've had such an incredible leadership role. When we're able to go to Connie again, you'll be able to see a plaque that honors them. But for now, we're going to use tonight. So I'm now going to turn it over to Diane.
Well, good evening, everybody. And it's so great to be on here, especially with some old friends who've had a critical role in early childhood. Catherine asked me to do a couple of things, which is to talk about maybe a little bit about the evolution of how we got here. And I just want to say it hasn't just been in the last 15 years. It really started when First Lady Alice King wanted to establish a Children, Youth, and Families Department, that she wanted New Mexico to actually recognize that there was, we had to focus on kids. But over the years, what we learned, and many of the legislators on this call learned, that Children, Youth, and Families became more of an intervention agency than a prevention agency. And so we've evolved, we've gone with the flow, but I wanted to mention a few people that I think have been critical. Of course, Alice King and Governor King were really critical in those early years. And then over the years, a number of legislators, some who aren't here anymore, and that we wanted to recognize. From my own personal experience, I can remember back when Lucky Varela was finally convinced that the first 5 years were truly about prevention and education and making sure kids got off to a good start. Representative Larrañaga, who also has passed away, Representative Larrañaga was key in home visiting and doing some of those things. And some of our other friends that I just wanted to mention, besides the people who are on here, was Representative Linda Trujillo, who was pretty key to us in the House over the years, sometimes when we were working on legislation, and really a whole myriad of people and legislators. And I don't want to forget Governor Richardson, who actually gave me as Lieutenant Governor the go-ahead to really work. As I remember it, he said, "Oh yeah, you go work on that kid stuff." So I took that as a calling to go work on that kid stuff. And fortunately, some of the legislators that are on here have been really great partners for Catherine and for me as we've worked on that, quote, kid stuff. And so we've asked a few of them from our historical books, some more recent history and some from farther back. And I wanted to start out with former Senator Cynthia Nava, who worked closely until the middle of the night one night with me to make sure that we passed the 4-year-old pre-K. And I'm going to ask each one of them, everybody I introduced, to take a minute or two and just say what they thought was their proudest moment or their biggest challenge, whichever one, or both. Senator Nava.
Thank you,
Can you
Diane.
spotlight them? Oh, there.
I brought this. Look, Diane. I wanted to see this. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that?
Yes.
That's in my office. That's our picture that night that the bill passed.
That's right.
Isn't that great? And
Or
if
the
you
wee hours of the morning.
the debate went on, Michael, for hours, and it was a really hard debate too. And if you recall, Diane, Linda Siegel and Rebecca Dow were on the far side of the chamber, and that there was always that tension of private and public, and it was just a hard It was a hard sell, and it was a hard thing. And I was actually, you called me, I was getting an MRI at UNM because I was going through some health issues then. And I said, well, I'm getting an MRI. And you said, you have to come now. So I came back and we did the bill. And I wanted to make a clarification. I passed the bill on the Senate floor, but it was actually Mimi's bill. It was the House bill that actually got signed into law. So I wanted to make that clarification. And then one other thing I wanted to say very quickly. I had the unique opportunity of not just doing the policy, but going back to Gadsden and implementing it. So I've seen up close and personal how this early childhood program can really change children's lives. And I want this story for the secretary. I haven't had an opportunity to meet you, but I've heard such glowing, great things about you. And I am excited sometime to meet you. But I wanted to tell you, in our first early childhood program, we had it in our central office. And the last day of school, they had lunch and they said, would you come and have lunch with the students? So I went down there and I ate with the little boy. And I said, so you're graduating? He said, yeah, I'm going to Sunland Park. I'm going to be in kindergarten. I said, and he says, yeah, and I'm leaving here. I said, yeah, well, that's, you know, you're going on to bigger things. And he looks around, and you know how well-stocked pre-K rooms are. He looks around there and he says to me, what are you going to do with all this stuff? In other words, if he's leaving, it's over. It's like, and I've never forgotten that, because to me, that just spoke to the need for the sustainability, that it's not just that boy that needs that opportunity, it's every child in New Mexico. And so I'm so happy that it looks like we're going to get there. So that's my 2 cents. But I love working on it. And I really appreciate your involvement. Thank you.
And I appreciate you reminding us about now Senator Stewart, because
yes,
she was that champion over in the House. And I was in the Senate, I thought it was all about us as usual, right. But it wasn't.
That's the Senate.
So I appreciate that. Yeah. Next, I'd like to ask Senator Sapien, who has been a tremendous partner in 2 ways, home visiting some of our accountability acts, and also as a partner on the Senate Finance Committee over the years, to make sure that when there were threats to the funding or even flatlining funding, Senator Sapien's been a real champion. So Senator Sapien, can you share a few of your thoughts about the work you've done?
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate it. Can you all hear me okay? So, you know, they say that you can't go forward unless you recount and you take stock of where you've been. And I wanted to point out 3 specific ladies who nurtured me along this evolution, if you will, into early childhood ed. You know, in 2008, when I was first elected, I got a call to go to a early childhood summit in Santa Fe in December. So it's been 12 years now, this past December, that Lieutenant Governor Denish was hosting. And I sat there and I was the only legislator there. Trust me, it went to my head. I'm thinking, oh, I'm the guy, right? I'm the early childhood guy. I got to be the guy now. And so you had all this information that came about the 80% of the development of the brain at 3, starting at 0 till age 3, and all that information that we know, that I've been educated on over the years. And so Governor Denish, I wanted to thank you for hosting that summit. Along the years, there was 2 ladies who would never let me sleep as we were rolling out different pieces of legislation, and that was Lily Montoya and Catherine Freeman. The 2 of them were absolute juggernauts in talking with people and bringing people together. In 2010, when we passed what I affectionately called the business plan for early childhood ed, the 3rd stool of the leg. You have kindergarten through 12, you have higher ed, and pre-K we established in 2010 that 3rd leg of the stool. And it was phenomenal. And I thought, you know, this is how it's supposed to work. I never had another bill after 2010 that brought everybody together the way that came together. And that's because people were working hard on it behind the scenes. And I wanted to thank my chair of education, Cynthia Nava. She absolutely mentored me as we went forward. I saw her fight for money as it came to the education budget. And when I became chair, I took that same vigor and fought for the education budget. I'm very happy that you guys mentioned some of the leaders that we no longer have in our lives because they passed away. But Lucky, Larry, Kiki, John Arthur, Carlos, all of them were instrumental in assuring that we not only put money into early childhood ed, but that we exponentially put money into early childhood ed. And it's not always the exact place that the advocates want it, but at the end of the day, there is a ton more money than 2010 in the system, and we have those gentlemen to thank for it. Kiki, Lucky, and John Arthur and I met at the San Felipe restaurant over at San Felipe Pueblo, across from the casino there. And I met with them individually over different periods of time when I was chair of the LESC, trying to get finance to bridge so that we weren't fighting between LESC and finance, and we were bringing those monies together. And it was just fascinating to watch those leaders commit to it and really exponentially make sure that early childhood ed was stood up. Now we're handing the reins off. My good friend, Michael Padilla, absolutely appreciate him. He got elected, and his charge was early childhood ed. I tapped him on the shoulder. And I said, that's my charge too. But I love the fact that with me moving out, and I don't use the word retire because I'm way too young. With me moving out, we have an absolute champion in Michael Padilla, and we all need to get behind him, continue to support him. Sorry, I won't be there to support you in Senate Finance, Senator, Vice Chair, but we will have to find some champions in that Finance Committee. And we also I want to recognize the Secretary. She absolutely, the first 10 minutes of our conversation, I knew that she was the right personality to lead us forward with the early childhood education department. And I'm very grateful that department was named after the bill we passed in 2010. And aside from a leader that's no longer with us, that was out of office, where all he said was I always knew it was we. We passed this. We got the money, because I couldn't have done it without all of you. And I love the struggle. I won't be going far, trust me. I will still be around the corner to make some phone calls to some legislators if they get out of line and don't want to fund early childhood ed. So put me on speed dial, Madam Secretary and Senator. Thank you for the opportunity to address everybody tonight, and good luck with the new title. They always say with the new name comes new evolutions and new successes. And I look for this organization to exponentially grow New Mexico early childhood ed. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Next, I want to call up on, I don't want to say that he's just been involved in recent history, Senator Padilla, but because he's worked for so many years. Many of you probably know he's worked for years and years on helping foster children in the foster system. He's been very closely tied to many issues around CYFD. But in the more recent history, Catherine and I and Kate Noble had the wonderful opportunity to partner up with him to pass Senate Bill 22 to create the Department of Early Childhood Education and Care. And it was one of those things, when we finally got it done, we were kind of sad because we couldn't get together and connive and try to figure out who we needed to talk to and who got the most chocolate chip cookies and different things like that. So it was a bittersweet victory. And thanks to, I just have to say, the people you see on this, you've never seen people work harder on the issues around children. And certainly Senator Padilla is an example of that. And we couldn't keep up with him, really. Three of us, we could barely keep up with meeting, coming and going every single time. So my personal thanks to you, Senator Padilla, and take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Governor. I am truly honored to follow these two, champions in New Mexico. My chairman, Senator Sapien, his chairman, Senator Nava, chairwoman. And I have to tell you that you meet people along the way, and you do wonder in the legislature, what is their motivation? What are they truly after? What are they trying to accomplish? And it was always the rolling up of the sleeves, the blood, sweat, and the tears, the negotiating, the late nights, as you've heard, and really, really late nights to get all of this done. So I want to thank Senator Sapien, Senator Nava. You have mentored me along the way, and I hope to someday aspire to what you've been able to accomplish. All of this is leading up to something very important for New Mexico's children. And I think that we're already seeing the gains and the benefits. And when you heard about the work to pass Senate Bill 2222 to create the Early Childhood Education and Care Department, we literally created a war room in my office. And when people saw us coming down the hall, they knew we weren't fooling around. And they knew that when we went into that room, we were going to go 15 rounds over a particular topic. But when we got out of there, we had something good that we could work on. So I want to thank everybody that is here this evening. Everybody has put a special ingredient into the cake to stand it up. And I want you to know that's not lost on me. We happen to be able to be the senators and the representatives and, and all that stuff. But the real work is done before we even get to the legislature. The real work is done offsite and in these meetings and in little tiny meeting halls all over the state, in churches and schools and fire stations and what have you. And these things come together and they're lifted up this way. So I want to thank you. You heard a little bit about me and what I work on. I grew up in extreme poverty. Think of the poorest people you knew growing up. Well, we were a little poorer than them. So, New Mexico, we have poverty across this state. We've had it for so long that we sometimes don't even see it anymore. And one of the things, I can remember this conversation very vividly with Senator Sapien, Chairman Sapien, back when I first came to the legislature. And he says, why are you so excited about early education? I said, well, I'm looking at it from a real basic standpoint. Now I'm a business person and I want higher quality for my products and services and lower liability for my products and services. It's real simple, because then I can create more jobs. And if I can do that, then I give somebody a hand up. They can pay the mortgage. The kids know where they're going to sleep at night. They can get to school the next day. Something can truly happen for that family. But without education, which we all know is our path to prosperity, we have nothing. And so when we see that poverty and we drive past it sometimes, the early childhood movement in New Mexico and all the work that all of you have done is not just a Band-Aid or a temporary fix or an issue of the moment. It is a structural change for our state. It is literally a structural change that's going to turn the ship of New Mexico. I firmly believe that. What we truly need is a world-class workforce. And at the end of the day, that's what this effort is going to do for us. Right now, we're perfecting and re-perfecting, and we wound up finding a rock star on the other side of the country named Elizabeth Groginski, who I'd never met before, but when I did, I was in awe, and I was so happy to carry the confirmation to help her take the reins of this department. And when we were done, I don't know, Madam Secretary, if you remember, but I ushered you to my office with your family and with others. And I said, I want you to stand here right under my mom's painting. She passed away 25 years ago. And I wish she could be here today for this moment, because now we have somebody to lead this effort that all of us have worked on. And we had a nice photo, and that's something I'll always cherish. And I appreciate you for coming to New Mexico and taking the reins here. Where are we going from here? Well, one of the things is governance, consistency. All of the things that we did in creating this department. We're not going to get another penny for early education unless we can convince my colleagues in the legislature what we're going to do with that penny. And now we have a plan. It's almost as though we were going to the bank, and Senator Sapien's a business person as well. I know we have other business folk on the call tonight. It's like going to the bank without a business plan and a financial plan and asking for all of this money. Boy, what an effort all that was before, when we really should have focused on bringing some governance. So now we have governance. Now we have accountability with Senator Sapien. Now we have an early pre-K Act and a documented pre-K Act because of Senator Nava and all the other work that has been done. We are in the best position ever to fully fund early education in this state now, because we have a plan, we have a financial plan, we have a documented way to bring forward a workforce that's going to truly make a difference. And I'm telling you what, when those kids go to bed at night, they're going to have a plan behind them because of all of us and all the work that all of you've done. I think you know that the three of us are politicians. We could probably talk for hours, but I know there are others that we need to hear from. But I just want you to know the work of the past really isn't the past. It's coming to fruition now. The work we're doing right now is super important for what we get next. What we get next is a way of life in New Mexico. It's going to become a way of life for us now. And I'm so excited about that, because we're going to make a structural change for our people and for our state. and we're finally going to get our hands around overcoming poverty in New Mexico. And it's because of all of your efforts. So I just came tonight to say thank you. I'm going to stick on the call for about another 10 or so minutes. I have another meeting. Well, we're in the legislature now, but I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Governor Dennis. Thank you, Kate Noble, who I've worked with, all three of you, very closely. And thank you, Senator Sapien, and thank you, Senator Nava. And Madam Secretary, I'm real shy. And so we're going to keep talking every moment of every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator
Thank
Padilla. And I want to give a special shout out too to Senator John Arthur Smith for the
Yes.
Children's Trust that was created last year before he left the legislature. He's also been a tremendous partner to us and a confidant and advisor on what we could do and maybe what we couldn't do. And I just want to say to Catherine and your whole board that all of these people you see on here are the people that were showing up at rules committees and finance committee and the day of the final passage and all those wonderful things. And that doesn't go without the leadership of a really great CEO and a great board chair every step of the way and great board members. So I personally appreciate that. Catherine, back to you.
Thank you, Diane. And thank you, Senator Nava, Senator Padilla, and Senator Sapien. Just to confirm what Diane said, I can't tell you how humbled I am by the partnership that we've had, especially in the most recent legislation with Senator Sapien and Senator Padilla, and of course the courage of Cynthia to carry that first bill. But the partnership is absolutely fabulous, and I am forever grateful to you. And thank you for taking all those calls in the middle of the night. And Senator Padilla, you're not done. You aren't either, actually, Senator Sapien. We'll take you up on helping. So very, very, very good. And now I would like to introduce Kate Noble. Is Kate here, Abby? I can't see people, so.
Yes, she's on the screen, Catherine. Kate's
Okay,
here.
good. So Kate Noble, you just heard Kate mentioned from Senator Padilla, but Kate is our Vice President of Policy and Stakeholder Engagement at Growing Up New Mexico, and has provided a great deal of leadership to pulling it all together, mostly hearing the voices of New Mexicans, many, many thousands of New Mexicans all across the state. So Kate, take it away.
Thank you, Catherine. And it's really great to see everybody and to be here and to remember all of those meetings. And I appreciate what Diane said, because so many folks here did show up to the Rules Committee again and again and again for Senate Bill 22, and it really does take a village. And I am really glad to hear, the reflections of politicians and leaders through time. And I have to apologize in advance because I am doing my politician role as president of the Santa Fe Public School Board tonight as well, and have taken a little break from that meeting to come here, because truly, the most important work I can probably do for the Santa Fe Public Schools is the work in early childhood to shift the outcomes. And I am so honored to work for this incredible organization with the board and the leadership and the team that's here, and the partnership with the state and funders and so many others that are integral to this. As Catherine mentioned, I have had the great honor of doing a lot of listening in the early childhood community throughout New Mexico. It's actually been about 3 years, with the biggest chunk of that coming under a comprehensive statewide needs assessment, which we were successful in proposing a proposal as to how we would do it under an RFP from the state. And we have gone through the needs assessment process, which was just incredible, listening throughout the state through really great local champions and ambassadors, and trying to build trust and going through trusted ambassadors. And we always would come back and let people know how their input was used. And when all is said and done, there's a strategic plan that Secretary Gruginski has been so wonderful in moving across the finish line. And we'll launch it. The state will next week, but we added it up in part at the request of Secretary Gruginski, and more than 4,700 voices throughout New Mexico were heard through the process of the needs assessment and strategic plan. And it's just been amazing. And one thing I really want to say, because and they're available on our website as well as on the ECECD website, but one thing I really want to say is whatever question you ask throughout the state, and we had some good questions which were fairly simple: what's working, what's not working, how do you want things to be, and what's getting in the way, as we did the needs assessment. And the answer to every single question was always the workforce. And Senator Padilla alluded to this, but this is absolutely the foundation of everything. And the workforce is what's working because we have absolute heroes, and it's what we need more of, and it's a limiting factor. So it's also what's not working. And when people talk about how they want things to be, they talk about wages and compensation. And when they talk about what's getting in the way, well, they talk about wages and benefits and support and all of these things. And the good news is, and you will be hearing from Secretary Gruginski, we do have this incredible leadership. They really have some wonderful plans and outlines. I've actually been transcribing some of your remarks, Secretary, on what you said about workforce, just because there's a lot of meat in what's planned. And there's no question that 2020 and the pandemic has been an incredibly tough year on the workforce, as it has been on all educators, and the secondary trauma being experienced by home visitors and the child care and early childhood education professionals is really significant. And we need to recognize how much this workforce has shouldered from families and communities, and they're absorbing it and going on. We know they have always been underpaid. The files were deep at the partnership when I joined on pay issues in early childhood, and the structural inequity that has to do with women's work, some sexism there that has to do with a workforce that is primarily women of color, it just can't be overstated. And if there is a silver lining from this year, it's that a lot of people have woken up to the value and importance of the early childhood workforce. And I know everybody here probably knew it before, but for families at home with kids, particularly young kids, for businesses dealing with absenteeism and distracted employees, let's face it, we all know now more than ever how much we need the early childhood workforce. And again, these folks are heroes. They always have been, but this year has really shined a spotlight on how important they are, what superheroes the early childhood workforce is. No one in early childhood is in it for the money. They are in it because this is how we save the world. So the great hope and recognition after this year is that this pays off and that we can grow the investments and do what we need to do to get the pay, to get the benefits, to get the support that is really needed and deserved by the early childhood workforce. But for now, I have the honor of raising a glass and saying to the early childhood workers out there and to everyone on this call who works with them and fights on their behalf, thank you, and here's to your future prosperity and great health.
Thank you very much, Kate. And thank you, all the workforce, all the people in the early childhood workforce who may hear and may not be here. It's critically important. And so I don't think Secretary Gruginski needs any more introduction because everybody's introduced her so elegantly. but I get to again, so I will.
Good.
You know, it is a remarkable thing as Senate Bill 22 came together. Was so much alignment across the state. We were really clear about what we wanted. We had legislative support. And then we needed a secretary. And I don't know how we got so lucky in the state of New Mexico. It's really a kind of auspicious thing. To have been able to bring Elizabeth Groginski here to lead the work in the early childhood department. She had been here only a minute, practically, actually a couple months, when COVID came around. And Secretary Groginski has marched forward, continued. As Kate said, COVID shined a real light on what we already all knew, but on, you know, what we needed to do with childcare and what we needed to do with workforce. And Secretary Groginski and her department have taken very active steps to change regulations and support our providers as we move through this crisis and plan for the future. So it is with great honor that I introduce my friend and our friend, Secretary Elizabeth Groginski.
Thank you, Catherine. Can everybody hear me okay? Hopefully. What a wonderful celebration. And I'm so honored to be able to be here to toast growing up New Mexico, and incredible history lesson for me. So I needed this probably a year ago, but this was great and fantastic to do it. You know, better in person always. We all know we're about relationships and in person, but you know, I think we really have to thank Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham for both being that champion to get this across the board and for finding me in Washington, D.C. So, and bringing that. I mean, it is a true honor to work for somebody with her vision and passion for children. And I would say also for the early childhood workforce. She's been the one to say we have to do more. And so it's really my honor. I feel I'm standing on the shoulder of so many giants. Many of them are on the call here with me today, and more I know will come. And I'm just blessed. And I mean, Senator Padilla from the get-go. I remember arriving at the governor's residence for the luncheon, and Catherine was there. I didn't, you know, even know which way was anywhere, and felt an immediate connection though. I knew I was in the right place, and I knew that New Mexico, that we had a destiny. And it was so exciting to the next day walk into a room of 400 New Mexicans who were starting to launch a strategic plan that Growing Up New Mexico, in their former name, was helping lead with the Native American Budget and Policy Initiative. So it's been a wild and fun ride ever since, exhausting at times for sure, but I want to really toast Growing Up New Mexico and all of you as champions of this organization for three really important things. I think one is just the bold and creative leadership. It's consistently demonstrated. The work we did with the Pritzker Children's Initiative, bringing together the steering committee, not being afraid of hard issues. I know the work of Senate Bill 22 and even the Early Childhood Trust. You know, you were bringing really your leadership and your bold ideas to that work. So thank you for that, and thank you for continuing that work. A second, being such strong champions for families and young children. I think everything I've heard here tonight, but what we've seen through the pandemic, you're adjusting, you're thinking both on the statewide scale, what do we need to do from an advocacy standpoint, but every day you're also thinking about the families and children in Santa Fe, in your community, in your programs, and you're innovating. You're changing those things because you know what families and children need are so important, and you're listening. So thank you for being such bold, you know, strong champions for families and young children and delivering quality programs and advocating for them, not just for the families of Santa Fe, but for families all over the state. And third, just trusted partners. You know, people, I can hear it on this call, all the incredible different voices. People know you're the go-to. Call them, they'll call you. They'll always be there. But really, since day one, you know, you've been with us on the needs assessment, you know, struggled with me on my different changes in opinion all along the way with the strategic plan. But from the get-go, you are right there at our side as a trusted private sector partner who's interested in good government, good governance, and we can rely on you for that, and making important connections. whether it's the work we're thinking about with infant early childhood mental health, whether it's the work now we're thinking about, health and comprehensive systems, the support you've given us around the Medicaid working group, all these important things. That's a trusted partner. We call, you answer, and that really helps us be successful, and we're really all in it together. So I would like to say, I'm sure the governor, if she was here, would echo the same thing, but I do want to thank the governor for giving me this opportunity to lead and be here and be in partnership and service with all of you. And big toast to Growing Up New Mexico and all the good things we're going to do in the near future and down the road. Thank you.
And big toast to you, Secretary Gurginski. So, yeah, thank you very much. And you can see, my friend Lillian Montoya always says, we got this. So I think we can say in New Mexico right now, we've got this. So that's really, really, really wonderful thing. Next, I'd like to introduce again, Stacy Quinn. I think you heard me say that Stacy has been on our board. She was my colleague and partner from the very beginning of my term here, is board emeritus, which means she can never go anywhere. She has to always be on this board forever and ever. So Stacy is going to talk about our organization a little bit. Stacy?
Thank you, Catherine. I'm here tonight to celebrate our history and to recognize that we did not do this alone. It took many years of working together with people and organizations across a wide spectrum of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and nationally. We are proud of the role we have played in bringing early childhood care and education to the forefront of our community. We started life as a traditional philanthropy, seeking to add value and relevance to our grant making. Our national organization was experimenting with impact programming. And so we took a hard look at our business model and realized we were not making the difference we wished for our community. This led our board to change our mission to become a community impact organization. In the early days, this was not a popular decision, but our board and CEO remained steadfast in our belief that this was the best way to serve our community. We learned that leadership is not taken or even given. It is bestowed because it is earned. So we were a mission in search of a purpose. Our journey to becoming Growing Up New Mexico began with our participation in a national early childhood program some 25 years ago, an element of which was to listen to the community's needs and desires. And that was a novel approach at the time. We listened and found that there was room for leadership in this area, and the community could look to us to fulfill that role. Over the years, we have determined where we could make a difference, where it was our job to connect the dots, and where we needed to fill the gaps. Our board boldly and bravely listened and ruthlessly pursued a strategy of best practices suited to the needs and character of our community. We run our own home visitation and pre-K programs, administer Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, work with existing programs to provide support and services already being performed in the community, partner with others to address policy issues, and much, much more, all of which you will hear about over this kickoff weekend. I'm going to quote Douglas MacArthur: "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others." That perfectly describes our board, our CEO, our management team, and staff. Further, MacArthur said, "A person does not set out to become a leader, but becomes one by the equality of their actions and the integrity of their intent." This organization has become a leader in the early childhood realm precisely because we listened. We had the courage to make the tough decision to change our mission and to stand alone if necessary. I would add that leadership takes humility, sometimes lots of humility. We have had our share of failures, but we learn from them. And so our programs and our commitment to the community is that much stronger. I would be remiss if I did not mention our CEO. Catherine is adept, compassionate, wise, fearless, and humble. But her superpower is that she genuinely loves children and found passion in working for them and their families, and so inspired others as well as herself to reach for the stars. We are so fortunate to have her at the helm for the past 20 years and for a long time in the future. And on a personal note, I am so proud to be her accomplice. With her leadership, all things were and are possible. Which brings us to today. As our commitment to the children and families of New Mexico has grown, we realize that leadership requires us to maintain our equality of action and our integrity of intent. We also need the organizational structure to support that work. And so the board once again made the tough decision and took the bold and brave step to leave our former National Association, stand alone, and transform our organization into Growing Up New Mexico, the Early Childhood Partnership. Our journey did not happen overnight. We have a very rich history, a deep pride in our accomplishments, much gratitude for all who have contributed, and infinite hope for the future. I was so taken with Amanda Gorman, the poet laureate at the inauguration yesterday, that I wish to raise my toast by quoting from Professor Daniel Bourne's poem, "May we meet again under the roof." And it's past cocktail hour here. May we meet again under the roof as children, because as children we received the world, and to children we must return it. And may we meet again under the roof of all the mouths of all the people who will remember our names, what we did here beneath this roof above us now, and what we have yet to do to the history and future of Growing Up New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, thank you. I don't need to say anything except I'm sure everybody really understands why we honor Stacy so robustly tonight. Thank you, thank you. And now our current board chair and fearless, never fearful leader, Barb Rand.
Now, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good, okay. Good evening, everyone. As a member of the board of directors at Growing Up New Mexico for the last 6 years, and as the current chair of the board, I am so very proud to be part of this incredible organization. As a former early childhood educator, a mother, and a grandmother, I have seen the importance of a strong and focused approach to early childhood education throughout my life. Now, being a part of the team at Growing Up New Mexico, I have watched how this organization has enriched our local community and well beyond throughout our entire state. Stacy just spoke about our history and our decision to focus on early childhood services for the past 15 plus years. I want to focus just for a minute or two on our future. We envision a community where all children will succeed in school and life. We do this through a strategy that employs a multi-generational approach, one that supports both children and their families through a series of high-quality early childhood educational programs, as well as supporting the needs of the whole family, so they are better able to provide for their personal needs and those of their children. We do this also through our state policy work that have worked so successfully with our state legislators, as we saw earlier this evening, and our partners throughout the state to promote the cause of high quality early childhood education and care. With our new name, we will more closely align our policy work with our direct programs going forward. And finally, we do this through the many and varied partnerships that we have formed around the state to work toward the empowerment of young children and their families, where they will succeed and thrive as they move forward in their lives. In closing, I invite you to participate in the many virtual sessions over the next 3 days, where you will learn more about the specific programs and the ways that Growing Up New Mexico, the Early Childhood Partnership, is impacting the lives of young children and their families throughout our rich and diverse state. Now, I would like to toast the children and families that are growing up in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Barb. So thank you, Barb, and thank you, Stacy and Diane, for introducing all of that. And so the next thing I want, everybody knows that without committed and dedicated funders of early childhood, we would have nothing to be able to base our work on. So, at this point, I want to honor the funders who have done that over so many years. And we have Michael Weinberg from the Thornburg Foundation and Mary Nell Wegner from the Brindle Foundation. Before I introduce them, I also want to thank, very deeply thank Encorum, Christus St. Vincent Regional Medical Center, the Dell Foundation, the Daniels Foundation, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, the Anderson Foundation, the Lannell Foundation, and I really, really hope I haven't missed anybody. I'm going to introduce Michael Weinberg and Mary Nell in one conversation here, and then I'll ask Michael to speak, and he can then turn it over to Mary Nell. But I think everybody knows and understands Michael and the Thornburg Foundation's role in early childhood for many, many, many years. They have been foundational. As we talk about policy work and what we want to build for the new department, we talk a lot about foundational issues. And the Thornburg Foundation has been foundational in allowing our policy work to carry on. They're just a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous partner to work with. And again, most of you see Michael a lot, so I will turn it to him in a moment. Mary Nell from the Brindle Foundation and also from the Early Childhood Funders Group. Michael's also from the Early Childhood Funders Group. The Brindle Foundation has been a key, steady funder in early childhood for many, many years. And I have to recognize Nan Schwanfelder at this point. Nan is the founder and was the president for many years of the Brindle Foundation. Her son, Kevin, is now the president, but Nan's voice was the first really, really loud voice when she talked about make noise for babies. And that was so early, and we were focusing on pre-K, and she just kept going. So I hope that Nan is at her most satisfied as she's able to see the conversation and the progress and the commitment of Secretary Grigensky and all that's happening across the state to support babies, infants and toddlers at this point. So welcome to Mary Nell and Michael. And Michael, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, it's a real honor to be here this evening. And as you mentioned, well, you've been a key partner for us as well. I started this work in 2014, and since then, the partnership, now Growing Up New Mexico, has been our single largest grantee in the early childhood space. And that is because of so much of what we've heard leading up to my remarks. The way that you work in a centrist, bipartisan way, the way that you build consensus among diverse stakeholders, the way you anchor your approach to policy in research, and your ability to broker complex compromises between really disparate groups. It's hard to believe that in early childhood we don't all agree with each other all the time, but does happen. And in fact, that leads me, sometime when we're all back in person, you'll have to ask Catherine to see her tattoo. It says knees bent. Right, Catherine?
Right, Michael?
Yes. And that has really been her guiding philosophy and approach. And there's been cataloged some of the successes, but there are some others that haven't been mentioned yet. So I really wanted to just highlight a few that knees bent approach has led to. We passed, I'm going to say we, like this, the royal we, but the Child Care Accountability Act. We actually passed it twice. The first time it was pocket vetoed, and we got it through a second time. We got some language in House Bill 2 that led to the use of Medicaid to fund home visiting. And Secretary Gerginski mentioned that has really taken off and is very promising. There was a time there where there wasn't a strong appetite for childcare. And so we pivoted and said, let's go toward pre-K expansion. And Claire and Danila, who aren't with us tonight, they road tripped around the state making this case. I went down to Hobbs with them, and they did local talk radio shows. I mean, it was this very grassroots campaign. Catherine was integral in creating the early childhood business plan and conducting community conversations around that business plan, which arguably led to the creation of this new department that we've talked so much about. No one has mentioned the Early Childhood Trust Fund to this point, which is that's a one of a kind in the country that we have. And then the last thing I would say is just, and it's been mentioned, but this idea of steady appropriations increases. In fiscal year 14, when we started this work together, we were at around 152 million. And in the most recent budget, fiscal year 21, that had increased to $371 million. So more than $200 million increase. And Catherine, you and your team deserve a ton of credit. There were lots of other thanks. And I think it's one thing that's important to mention is that you also are crafty about working with staff. And I think about your relationship with David Abbey at the LFC and Kelly Klunt and Mimi Alito Sandoval. And those are people who behind the scenes really help make those things happen. And you recognize that. And, whether it's a breakfast at Tia Sophia's or meeting in their office, you do whatever it takes. So I want to join everyone in congratulating Growing Up New Mexico and wishing you lots of success moving forward.
Thank you, Michael. I miss those breakfasts. I look forward to them again. Michael always joined me on the Tia Sophia things. So that was great. Mary Nell.
Well, that's the perfect segue for me because I first met Michael at Tia Sophia's, I think over a big breakfast burrito. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting the Brindle Foundation to this important event and for giving us the chance to share in the celebratory launch of Growing Up New Mexico. On behalf of the Brindle Foundation and the Schwanfelder family, Nan, Kevin, and Craig, it's my pleasure to get to congratulate you, Catherine, and your staff on your new name as you continue to pursue the vital work on behalf of young children in our state. As you know, the Brindle Foundation and Growing Up New Mexico have a long and rich shared history. And we have especially valued the way that Growing Up New Mexico, including the Early Childhood Partnership, I'm going to stumble over that, taking out development for a few more months, have been ever present and outspoken some might say relentless advocates for young children. Through your leadership and with your partnership, the needs of young children have not gone unrecognized in our state. And I would say the combination of programs and services, as well as policy and partnerships, really laid fertile ground for establishing our terrific and groundbreaking new Department of Early Childhood Education and Care. Your longstanding commitment to addressing young children's needs in context, I think that's been really important, including through the Friends and Family networks and the home visiting services, have really been instrumental to our state, as has your organization directed towards advocacy. When Growing Up New Mexico calls us about a meeting at the Roundhouse, we know we've got to show up. So with all of this in mind, we offer a toast to Growing Up New Mexico, not only for the work you have done, but for your continued commitment to working hand in hand with partners to make the lives of all New Mexicans, both infants and toddlers, better. Thank you. Here's to you.
Thank you, Mary Nell. Thank you, Mary Nell and Michael, and all of the funders who have supported us all these years. I do need to recognize that Michael, over the years, created an early childhood funders group. Mary Nell is now leading that group, and they are remarkable in their support of early childhood. One of the things that happened, I just can't stop talking about this, they actually funded us. Those of you who are in this all the time know what a miracle this is. They actually funded us to give money directly, no strings attached, to our FFN providers. That's our family, friend, and neighbor home-based providers. And it was just a remarkable thing. So it's so much fun to have them as partners and watch them grow and watch the Early Childhood Funders Group grow and watch philanthropy grow because of them. So a toast to you, Michael and Mary Nell. Okay. Am I done here, Abby? No, I think I am.
Yes, it looks good, Catherine.
Yeah, just one really quick big toast again to all of the partners all across the state. You know, I always think of when I came in here and the leadership that was provided by a group of really strong women who were just committed to early childhood, and they kept on and on and on. And of course, Mary Dudley was the lead of a lot of that work, Claire's mother, but also all of the providers, the New Mexico Early Childhood Education and Care Association, everywhere, Albuquerque Chamber, ACI, I mean, just everywhere. It's remarkable, all of the alignment that we have. So toast to all of them. Again, someday we'll get that stadium and get them all there. So Abby, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Such a great weekend. It's so fun to be finally getting off the ground. We've got great agenda. Remember, your event page is your place to go to find your links to all the upcoming events. It's also where you'll go to find the replay links. And it's where you can go to buy raffle tickets, which is another big part of our weekend. We got some great raffle baskets. But I'm going to start by just saying we made the goal of raising $25,000 this weekend for the event. The Anderson Foundation has issued a challenge grant for Connie, our early learning center, and will match every donation up to $15,000 this weekend. So that means your donation is doubled when you support our work. So this money goes directly into our programs and the children and families of our community. So please donate on the event page by buying raffle tickets and on our website, growingupnm.org. Tomorrow, you'll hear about our life-changing programs. You will be, if you are moved to make a generous donation directed specifically to any of our amazing programs, please let me know. Contact me and we'll work together to make your donation matter. Coming up tonight at 7:30, we have the Children and Family pre-show for the screening of No Small Matter. The pre-show is a lot of fun music, dance, celebration of children and high-quality preschool. It's modeled after the activities of a high quality preschool classroom. and there are many teachers in the video. So the pre-show is a lot of fun. Please tune in for that at 7:30. 8 o'clock, we're doing a screening, a virtual screening of No Small Matter, made in 2019. The first feature documentary to explore the most overlooked and underestimated and powerful force for change in America today, early childhood education. This is a documentary that illustrates the reason we're doing the work we're doing, the reason why we are fighting for funding and security in early childhood education now and in the future. The link will take you directly to the high resolution screening of the documentary, and there is no host or commentary for the 8 o'clock viewing of No Small Matter. So enjoy that. You will be receiving feedback links every day. So if you have comments you'd like to share about your thoughts for tonight's events or any events during the weekend, you'll have an opportunity to do that. So check your emails daily. You'll be receiving text messages with links to events and updates. And we hope that you find plenty of things that you'll enjoy doing over the weekend. The raffle is the last thing I'm going to do. We have our very high-tech randomized raffle system here. We've done amazingly well on our raffle ticket sales because our board worked tirelessly to make amazing raffle baskets. Tonight I'll be drawing the winner for the wine, spirits, and chocolate basket. The sponsors for that basket are Black Mesa Winery, a New Mexico winery, Santa Fe Spirits, located here in Santa Fe, and Kakawa Chocolates. So thank you to those businesses that donate to our raffle so that the proceeds from the raffle ticket sales go directly to our programs to support children and family. So in this basket is 6 bottles of Wine Collectors wine donated by Growing Up New Mexico board members, Black Mesa Winery wine tasting for 6, award-winning Santa Fe Spirits mesquite smoked whiskey, Santa Fe Spirits tour and tasting, tour of the distillery, and Kakawa chocolates. It's a beautiful basket, and I'm excited to see who's going to win it. So let's go ahead and proceed by selecting our raffle winner. All right, the winner is Maggie Brannigan. Maggie Brannigan, congratulations on winning the wine and spirits basket. And there will be one raffle winner drawn each day of the weekend. So stay tuned, you'll see it on the event agenda when the next raffle winner will be chosen. So thank you so much for being here. We'll look forward to seeing you all this weekend. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope you enjoy No Small Matter, the screening show tonight. That replay link will be available for 24 hours. Thank you, everyone.